Kick it.
Ahoy, mateys, and welcome aboard to This Week in Nickelodeon History. I'm your captain, Captain Eric, and it's time to cover some anniversaries this week. Now, I have had a whirlwind of a week, some ups, some downs, and it's a lot, you know. When you're an adult and you are moving forward, there's not much time to really stop and appreciate things as much as you'd like to. So when you do get those opportunities, it really is, it's a blessing. So I do implore all of you, if you have not ever listened to I'm Ready, a SpongePod Squarecast, or you haven't listened to it in a while, episode 122 on the camping episode probably is my favorite solo episode of the Squarecast I have ever done. And it was a good feeling to come out of that. So I'm still following that trajectory into this episode. So I appreciate you being here. As mentioned on that episode of the Squarecast, I'm going to do this first on these two episodes since something did happen and I was able to get a message out to the fans out there of my work. If you follow me on Twitter at I'm Ready Podcast, and on Instagram at SpongeBob Podcast, those are going to be the first places to hear any updates or any incoming news on my end. That's going to be the first place that I'm going to post about them. So if there's ever any delays on any of my projects, follow me there. You don't have to interact on every single post. If you do, hey, look, I love interacting with you guys, especially on Twitter. It's always a blast on there. So I'm going to plug those here first, and then leave the rest of the plugs to the end of the episode. The usual plugs for those that stay all the way to the end. The core members of the Ready crew. Now, we did get some massive Nickelodeon news in the last week since we last met, and that was the announcement of a crossover with the video game Smite, a MOBA, a massive online battle arena game, which has been free to play for a couple years. I know it's been around. I have actually never personally tried it until this past week. I think I downloaded it on a system before, you know, knowing it was free, but then never opened it and never got into it. But, Nickelodeon is a bit of my MO, as it's pretty obvious. So I'll try any game out there that's willing to do a crossover with the Nicktoons, especially when it's not just Nicktoons that, you know, you would immediately think they're going to cross over with, like SpongeBob or the Loud House. But the characters that have crossed over with Smite are the following: Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life, Invader Zim, Danny Phantom, Jenny from My Life as a Teenage Robot, and Powdered Toast Man. Which is just, you know, those five already, Jenny, Rocco, and Powdered Toast Man all having massive announcements, a part of All-Star Brawl. You know, Zim and Danny being a part of that was never a question, but those other characters being involved, a massive surprise. So to see more love coming for those characters in another game, it's fantastic. So yeah, it's amazing. Beyond the announcement, the trailer that they put together for this announcement was wonderfully animated. The animations, especially for Zim, were so impressive, and the models made for Danny and Rocco are fantastic. I want to see more of Jenny and Powdered Toast Man, but the negative of this, I'm sure you could possibly at least imagine, or at least not be surprised on, is the fact that there are no voice actors from these original characters in this game. All of the voices that have been made for the trailer and that are in the game are completely new actors for these characters. And, there are always going to be some out there for which this is not a big deal. You know, it's not going to deter them from playing or enjoying the crossover. and buying into it. And there are others out there, and I would say a significant majority of fans who, once they would hear of this news would be rightfully upset that, here we have these voice actors alive, well, working, ready to go, and are not even contacted about over voicing these characters. Cartoon characters are their voices. You can tell when somebody is replicating a voice no matter how good they are. And I can understand the pressures if you're a struggling game developer and you get the rights to work on this crossover and money is tight and you might not have the money for these voice actors. But you know what I would do in that situation? If I found myself on a game development side, working with Nickelodeon, being allowed to work with these characters, and then when it comes to the voices, Nickelodeon's probably like, hey, do whatever you wish, and it's then on my lap. I'm at least going to call up Richard Horowitz and ask him, hey, man, this is the position I'm in. I don't even know if I have the money to pay you. And at the very least, give the man the respect to be, offered on whatever basis can happen. And if it just can't logistically happen at that moment in time, strive for it, So I hope that given all of the press that this crossover has gotten with Smite, the good and the bad, I hope that they are able to, if I'm, I don't even know how much money they make from this game, but if money was a problem, the money coming in from the Nickelodeon crossover, use that to pay these voice actors, have them come in. There's only 5 characters here, and get their actual voices and get some authenticity in the game. That's all it takes. Look at how much the voices have helped All-Star Brawl. It felt like one game before, and then with the addition of the voices, I don't know, at least for me, I'm not saying it was a radically different game, but it was a different experience. It was a funner experience for me, a more enjoyable one. So, I have never played Smite before. I downloaded it. I'm currently 5-0 in preparation for the crossover before, any of the voice acting issues started coming up. So, I'm not sure what's going to be happening. I might stream some Smite coming up on YouTube. I hope they're able to get these voice actors in there. There's no reason that a patch can't be made of some sort to support that. But here we are almost 8 minutes in without covering a single anniversary of Nickelodeon. So I think it's time that we do that. And trust me, we're going back a significant amount of time this week because we are going back all the way 33 years ago on July 14th, 1989. We had the premiere of...
Hey, dude.
That's right, the classic Nickelodeon comedy western teen sitcom Hey Dude. Created by Dee LaDuke, the show ran for 5 seasons of 65 episodes. Now, if you would like to visit the Bar None Dude Ranch, why, you can, because if you head on out to, or I guess mosey on out to Tank Verde Guest Ranch in Tucson, Arizona, you can find some of the facade of the Hey Dude set. Now, an interesting tidbit here is that the show was, although primarily shot on the ranch, a lot of what you would see in the background shots, the facades of the buildings, the western look, was actually built off-site, off of where the main ranch is, where you can still visit, but a lot of the buildings have been abandoned and are pretty much in complete disarray. So that might seem like a bummer, but here's one thing: the swimming pool that was used in Hey Dude that you would see is still the swimming pool that is used for the main pool at the guest ranch, and it is still used by guests to this day. There's some coordinates to where the exact set is. It's about 15 miles east of Tucson, Arizona. So if you are a Nickelodeon fan down in Tucson, Arizona, or you live down there, you can actually travel out to visit some history of Nickelodeon. If I'm ever in that area of the United States, I would absolutely love to try to see as much of the Hey Dude set as possible. I have not gone back and watched the whole show from beginning to end. I want to know how it still holds up. But as a kid growing up, I did enjoy an episode like here or there. I didn't really watch it much. But man, does it have one of the best theme songs of any Nickelodeon show. That theme song had no reason to be that good. You know, you see these memes on TikTok of these guys like, you know, somebody walks into a room, hey, we need this song. It's just for this, quick video game or this TV show. You don't need to really make it that hard. And then it cuts back to where it's the actual song. And look, that's Hey Dude in a nutshell. They had no reason in the late 80s, early 90s for a Western teen sitcom to have a theme song that good. But we go on from a teen sitcom to a completely wild variety show that only Nickelodeon can make, and out of the mind of one Mark Weiner. That is right. I mean, because when I'm saying that name, you instantly know what I'm talking about if you're a Nickelodeon fan, because all the way back 29 years ago on July 11th, July 11th, 1993, we had the premiere, and a year later, on July 11th, 1994, we had the end of Weinerville. An absolutely insane but beautiful show created by Mark Weiner. The show ran for 2 seasons of 68 episodes. The show pretty much ran every Sunday in 2-hour marathons, and it gained a wild popularity on Nickelodeon, so much so that they started running it on weekday afternoons, and eventually Mark and all of his characters that he brought from Weinerville were then brought onto the main stage to host a brand new Nickelodeon New Year's event to rival Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve, which the last time I spoke about this, I had mentioned, I still think that's a pretty cool idea. Nickelodeon has always tried to do the kids' version of, kids' version of voting and kids' version of this and that, and here's them trying a New Year's Eve type celebration. And to this day, I think Nickelodeon's brand of entertainment absolutely goes hand in hand with a New Year's celebration. I mean, can you imagine just getting slime dumped on you right when the ball drops, or slime just belting out of that ball? It's a match made in heaven. I don't know. They should attempt something again. They have the MTV building there that MTV, I think, used to do New Year's Eve, or they still do up to this day. But, hey, give Nickelodeon the roof and let them start spraying slime over on the crowd when it's the new year. And but back onto Weinerville. Weinerville is a variety show with a lot of puppetry in a way that only Mark Weiner can bring you. I also recommend, there's one episode of Jim Henson's Tonight. Anytime I talk about Mark Weiner, I try to bring this up. But Jim Henson had a short-lived TV show that was a variety show that wasn't necessarily about the Muppets, but obviously included a lot of newer puppets he was kind of bringing to the screen. And there was an episode that included a bit that had Mark Weiner come on with his buddy Rocco, his hand puppet. And it's just so unique of a performance. And then when you go from that to seeing everything he was able to do with Weinerville, it's remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. Made a pun there. Don't get mad at me. Moving on to this next bit, because 19 years ago, we had the premiere of one of the greatest Nickelodeon TV movies of all time, Abra-Catastrophe.
Nickelodeon Original TV Movies proudly presents The Fairly Odd Parents in their first feature-length movie. Yes, it's that movie. And this movie. Not to mention this movie. But most of all, it's epic space battles, ancient angry monsters, new and improved Cosmo, an all-powerful Crocker, a planet of the monkeys, and the end of Fairy World, starring Timmy Turner.
I gotta save the world!
Cosmo and Wanda.
But we don't want to go away forever!
Mr. Crocker.
I wish I could catch your fairy godparents!
And introducing Bippy and the Magic Muffin as themselves.
He's making a wish!
Abra-Catastrophe, the Fairly Odd Parents movie, coming next Saturday night at 8 o'clock, 7 Central. And the only place to see it is on Nickelodeon. Be careful what you wish for.
Oh my God! Yes! Come on now. Look, Everybody and their mother loves Channel Chasers, but if you could take one Fairly Odd Parents TV movie and adapt it to the big screen, Abracatastrophe is that movie. It is everything that you could want in a Fairly Odd Parents movie. And what's great about my new setup here is I've actually created a little bit of a library behind me of sorts of all of my Nickelodeon DVDs and Blu-rays. Of course, not alphabetized, but organized in a way only a true Nickelodeon geek could do, but by release date of show. So yeah, the top is all Ren and Stimpy, and the bottom is all Legend of Korra and whatnot. But I have a DVD of Abracatastrophe. Grab it. There you go. It's Timmy Turner's Ferryversary, celebrating having fairy godparents for 1 year. Cosmo and Wanda are throwing a big party for him, with every magical character Timmy's ever met in attendance, including Santa and Mrs. Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. Jorgen von Strangle is there too, with Timmy's most special gift, a Ferryversary muffin, which allows the person who eats it to be granted a rule-free wish. But while everyone's celebrating inside, something sinister is lurking in the street below. There inside a van equipped with fairy detection devices sits Timmy's twisted teacher and fairy hunter, Mr. Crocker. He'll stop at nothing to capture a fairy and become supreme magical ruler of the universe. And that just might happen when the Ferryversary muffin falls into his hands. Mouth. It's an abracatastrophe. Case closed. Your Honor, I rest my case. If you haven't watched the movie in a long time, I implore you, season 3 of The Fairly Odd Parents, Paramount Plus. I know it's on Netflix now. No excuse. Everybody should have a streaming service out there that has The Fairly Odd Parents. 19 years. Go and celebrate by watching Abracatastrophe. I don't even need to plug it anymore. I did. It plugged itself, and then I plugged it even more through its own words. So just do yourself a favor. Stop wasting time. Don't shut this podcast off. This is not a waste of time. Keep listening to this. But once this is over, if you have like 45 minutes under your belt, you go watch Abracatastrophe and then come back and tell me how much you loved it, because it still holds up to this day. I stand by that. 18 years ago, on July 16th, 2004, the rocket-powered TV movie Island of the Menehune premiered on Nickelodeon. I have almost no memory of this TV movie. I have the DVD right here. Hold on, just like Abracatastrophe. Rocket Power, Island of the Menehune. Ready? I'm not gonna put the trailer up like I did for Abracatastrophe. On a family vacation to Hawaii, Ray rekindles an old romance with Tito's cousin Nolani. Reggie and Otto feel dissed since Ray keeps canceling their extreme sports plans because Nolani says they're too dangerous. As the final straw, Reggie and Otto defy Ray and take off to surf the perilous Banzai Pipeline. But it's too late when they realize Nolani was right about this one. Oh no, whatever will the Rockets do? I mean, I imagine it's something, but I really don't remember this one. When it comes to rocket power, the one TV movie I enjoy is Race Across New Zealand. That one I remember 100%. It's where I learned about Zorbing and Vegemite and Island of the Menehune. I'm gonna have to recheck this one out, see how it holds up. I wasn't able to check it out like as told by Ginger last week. That was a nice experience. I'm gonna have to start doing more of that, like actually watching some of these things once I have some time. But with the new office setup and the new time of driving to work and everything kind of falling into place, I'll be able to actually do a little bit more, which is nice. But hey, you know what? It's onwards and upwards from here. As we celebrate 14 years ago on July 13th, 2008, we had the premiere of the TV movie Roxy Hunter and the Myth of the Mermaid Movie. 9 years ago, on July 12th, 2013, we had the final episode of The Backyardigans. Created by Janice Burgess, the show ran for 4 seasons of 80 episodes. That's crazy to me that it took almost 10 years to get 4 seasons of the Backyardigans out. How long was it in between seasons? So season 1, 2004 to 2006, 6 to 2008, 2008, 2009. Oh, I guess they just stretched things out a lot here. Wow. But yeah, the Backyardigans, I mean, once you say that name, all of you out there are immediately thinking about a song in your head. Whether it's the main theme song or whether it's any of the other songs you've heard through social media, the Backyardigans haven't really left the social consciousness. They're still here. So if you were a fan of the Backyardigans, who was your favorite character and why? And do you have a favorite song? Or regardless on if it's your favorite, do you have a song that is just stuck in your head? Like you just cannot stop thinking about it. You don't even need to like it. But if you have one of those, let me know what it is. And let's see if I get my own Backyardigans earworm stuck in there. Hopefully not. But also a show that started 9 years ago on July 13th, 2013, The Haunted Hathaways. Created by Robert Peacock, the show ran for 2 seasons of 47 episodes. A supernatural sitcom about a single father and his 2 sons who are ghosts of a house where a single mother and her 2 daughters move in. Haha, look at that, like Haunted Brady Bunch. I'm sure that's how it was pitched. I just thought of that right now, and man, I am sure the pitch process was that it is essentially kind of the Brady Bunch, but there are ghosts involved. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because that is an interesting concept. Like, there's a reason why they went forward with that. Now, I know that the show was long enough on the air to at least get a crossover with the Thundermans, the Haunted Thundermans, which is a part 2, or the Thundermans got the part 1, I believe. But how do you have a show with ghosts on Nickelodeon and you don't have a crossover with Danny Phantom in some way, doing some Roger Rabbit type trickery? But that's just wishful thinking on my part, I suppose. And also a show that ended its run 9 years ago on July 16th, 2013. We had the final episode of the revived Figure It Out, hosted by Jeff Sutphin, who you may also know as Pick-Boy. Jeff hosted a variety of different Nickelodeon game shows around this time. I really admire the work he was putting into his job at the time, because, hey, I really feel like there should always be some sort of game show element on Nickelodeon, and Jeff was doing a wonderful job at the helm here. Figure It Out is a very simple concept. We did just talk about this not too long ago, but if this happens to be your first episode, I'll go over the game show very quickly. The point of the game show is to have a kid contestant come onto the show who either has a skill or they own something unique, like an animal that does something, or just own something outright, like a collection. But they have to get a panel of Nickelodeon All-Stars, some live-action stars, to guess what their skill is or what they're bringing to the table. Regardless on if it's on Billy the Answer Head, or I know in the revived Figure It Out they had a different setup for the board, but all of the different words attributed to their skill are all blocked out, and one at a time, each of the guest stars get to ask yes or no questions to the contestant. And when one of the words that are required for the puzzle is stated, I think regardless on whoever's turn it is, it instantly flips over. And there is one final phase at the end before the final round, where each contestant gets like one chance to kind of guess what the puzzle is. Beyond this, after the first round, right before the second round, the audience gets to know what the secret slime action is. The first round, you're safe. But on the second round, if you're one of the Nickelodeon guest stars there, you are kind of screwed. The secret slime action can be a variety of different things that somebody could just either naturally do, like touch their face, touch their ear, touch their nose, scratch their head, adjust their hat, something like that. Or it could be something very specific to maybe a certain star that's on the stage. Like, I always bring this up as an example because it's an easy one. But when they had Steve Burns of Blue's Clues on an episode, I believe there was an episode where the secret slime action was owning a blue puppy. So at that point, it's fun either way when they put those slime actions in, because when it's, adjusts their coat or adjusts their hat or touches their face, you're on guard. You never know who's going to get hit. But when you know a specific person is going to be hit, it's even funnier for the anticipation as to when it's going to happen. And that's half the fun of the show. So I really like Figure It Out. I don't know just on that second run through if it just wasn't clicking with the right audience, but I do think there is an audience for Figure It Out, and certainly an adult audience who grew up with the show. Imagine having a touring Figure It Out happening at different breweries, or changing up the game in a way to work with bigger audiences. I don't know. There's something there. It's something can happen, but I really miss Billy the Answerhead. If they ever do any sort of revival of Figure It Out again, you need to have that iconic Billy the Answerhead. You can't go cheap and just do it without him. It can't be done. 7 years ago, on July 16th, 2015, we had the premiere of Pig, Goat, Banana, Cricket. The show was created by Dave Cooper and Johnny Ryan, and it ran for 2 seasons of 40 episodes. I have not seen this Nicktoon. It certainly has one of the most unique art styles of any Nicktoon to ever exist, and on that note alone, it seems like it's worth jumping into, but we'll get to it one day. Pig, Goat, Banana, Cricket. If you're a fan out there of the foursome, let me know what you think. 5 years ago, on July 16th, 2017, we had the premiere of the Dude Perfect show on Nickelodeon. Now, to be fair, this was the premiere of the second season of the Dude Perfect show, but the show originated on CMT, which for some reason at the time was going absolutely bananas on picking up almost every YouTuber and giving them their own show. I remember Ed Bassmaster even had his own show on CMT. And I guess Dude Perfect was no different here. But the show was at least successful enough for another station to come in and pick it up. And that station was Nickelodeon, who not only picked it up for a second season, but a third season as well. Big shout out to the Dude Perfect guys, the fivesome on the team: Kobe and Corey Cotton, Garrett Hilbert, Cody Jones, and Tyler Toney. 2 years ago, on July 11th, 2020, we had the premiere of Nickelodeon's Unfiltered. Presented by Jay Farrow, the show has ran for 2 seasons of 41 episodes and is still ongoing as of the recording of this episode. And with that is our anniversaries of the week. Thank you for joining me on This Week in Nickelodeon History. As for my top 5, Captain Eric's patented top 5 of the week, figured since I covered Abracatastrophe, I'd cover the top 5 Fairly Odd Parents specials. Now, one caveat here. When it comes to specifically the specials, I'm also including the half-hour specials, because my number 5 here is just one of my most beloved Fairly Odd Parents episodes ever, but it's the Big Superhero Wish. I mean, how can you not include that in as a special? It was promoted as a special. It was this big deal. It's a half-hour long. It was extra long at the time. We didn't really get that too often. The Big Superhero Wish, if you haven't watched it in a while, it is absolutely worth a watch, up there with Abracatastrophe. Number 4, School's Out, the musical. I am a sucker for musicals. I'm a sucker for show tunes. I love Guy Moon's music and the work he's brought to the Fairly Odd Parents, and seeing them being able to flex their musical chops in a way that I don't think any other Nickelodeon show has been able to do before or since is pretty remarkable. If you haven't ever watched School's Out, I do highly recommend that. It's well worth a watch. The story with Flappy Bob as well is one of the more heartbreaking ones of the Fairly Odd Parents lore. Number 3, Channel Chasers, the end-all, be-all, everyone's favorite Fairly Odd Parents TV movie. I'm not salty about that or anything. It's an absolutely fantastic TV movie that lampoons a lot of your favorite TV shows, some of the best in history, and it's fun to see our characters going into different art styles, and there's some really genuine surprises in there. Like, if you could guess the shows they would feature within Channel Chasers before Timmy ever enters the television, you might get some right, but there are certainly some in there that were just an absolute surprise to see when it first premiered, and even in subsequent viewings, it's just wonderful to see some of those art styles again. I'm not denying the greatness of Channel Chasers, don't get me wrong. But number 2, Abracatastrophe, Just the build up, the play out of that movie, it just works on all levels of an edge of your seat Fairly Odd Parents movie. And I truly stand by the absolute fact that out of all of the Fairly Odd Parents movies here, it's the one that you could take and move it into theaters and it would feel like it belongs there, like it's a theatrical, big budget, big deal Fairly Odd Parents movie. They really put their all into this one. But did you notice that I mentioned that was my number 2, and I'm calling it the best and it's the greatest, and that's because my number 1 Fairly Odd Parents special is the Fairly Odd Parents crossover with The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, the Jimmy Timmy Power Hours. That's right. The Power Hours are topping this list just as they did for last week's list of the top 5 Neutron specials. I am that lame with my choices, but I mean, really, who's going to disagree with me on the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour being just the best? And out of the 3, I always maintain, I think 2 is the top of the 3, though you can't go wrong with 1. But if you pick 3 as your favorite, you might have to reevaluate your life there. But I appreciate you nonetheless. Thank you for joining me this week on This Week in Nickelodeon History. You can reach Captain Eric at nickelodeonhistory@gmail.com. You can also follow me again on Twitter at I'm Ready Podcast and on Instagram at SpongeBob Podcast. Please check out my other podcast, I'm Ready, a SpongePod Squarecast, dropping mostly every Wednesday. I aim for every Wednesday unless there's something significant that happens. But trust me, if it's never Wednesday, it's usually a day or 2 afterwards, and I always post. You can look through my library at this moment in time. I have rarely, if ever, missed a true week between episodes. Nothing has ever stopped me that much from releasing podcasts for you guys. So thank you to all of those who continue to listen. Please also subscribe to the Captain Eric YouTube channel, where you can also, while you're there, hit the bell for notifications so you can know whenever the Captain puts something out. Please pay attention. In the month of July, there's a big release coming for Captain Eric. I'm excited to put it out. I'm excited to share what I have brewing for you. Just stay patient. You can also purchase new and updated merch at the Redbubble link, either in the podcast description or in the link from any of my socials. Anything that comes in through my projects go directly back into my projects, and it is always appreciated. Please stay safe out there, be kind to one another, and come aboard again to another This Week in Nickelodeon History.
On the Lord Hut, here a hut, Nick. On the Lord Hut, here a hut, Nick, Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low, while living number 1 Nickelodeon.